Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Ask Bill Keegan Show. I'm your host, Bill Keegan, town manager here in Foxboro. Today, I'm joined with the new public safety team here in Foxboro, and we want to just get an opportunity to meet all of them and to provide some background information on where they're from and what they're about to do and what they're about to take on as the new leaders of our public safety team. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Rob Vidone to my left. And Mike Grace, who is our police. Rob Vidone is the executive director of the new regional dispatch operation here in Foxboro. And also Mike Grace is the new police chief, just recently sworn in. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Mike Kelleher is the new fire chief here in Foxboro. Mike's got a few more months under his wings at this point, so we're happy to see that happen. So Mike and both the Mike and Mike show here, which is what we've got now. So I have to be careful about which one I have between Mike Johns and the two of you. I have the mic three times now, so I have to figure out which Mike it is. So, but I'm glad that we're all here to join me today. And I'm going to start out with Rob to talk a little bit about his background, and then we'll go across the board and listen to all of you, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the things you're all working on at this point. So Rob, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure, Bill. Thanks for having me. So I came to SEMREC, or Southeast Mass 911, from the city of Chelsea. Mm-hmm. I was the Deputy Director of Emergency Management and 911. Prior to that, I worked for the Department of Defense, and prior to that, I was active duty with the United States Coast Guard. I have a fairly long career in public safety. I was a firefighter and paramedic to start off my career quite a while ago. So,
great. Well,
excellent.
I'm happy to have you. And I know that the SEMREC organization was just formed in 2017.
Correct.
We're in a point now where we became fully operational in July of this past year.
Correct.
And we'll get into that in just a minute. But we also are looking to start construction on a new facility, which will be located here in Foxboro as well. But the SEMREC is made up of actually 4 communities as it currently stands. We have Easton, Norton, Foxboro, and Mansfield. Currently, Foxboro and Mansfield are operational under the SEMREC program. Mm-hmm. Easton and Norton will actually join us next year. We'll become a little bit more operational at that point. Mike Grace, welcome aboard.
Bill, thanks for having me here and this opportunity to talk to the residents of Foxboro. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. I've been with the Foxboro Police Department the last over 21 years. And I've worked my way up through the ranks, and obviously I think Mike's got 7 months as chief. I think I had 7 days. So, but the first week into it, and it's been an amazing opportunity. I'm a Foxboro grad, class of '89, and I went off to college, and I have my degree in criminal justice, my master's actually in criminal justice administration. I then was hired for the Department of Youth Services, working with troubled youth for almost 6 years as a supervisor up at Westboro State Hospital, and then I moved on to the Department of Corrections as a correction officer at MCI Concord. Excellent experience in the law enforcement field, and then I was fortunate enough to be hired in 1998 with the Foxboro Police Department. Right. And from there, I've been here. I worked as a patrol officer for 7 years, and then I made the rank of sergeant. I was a patrol supervisor within the department, handling a variety of different roles and tasks, but primarily supervising shifts. Mm-hmm. And I did that for over 12 years. Mm-hmm. And then 3 years ago, I made the rank of lieutenant. And then just recently, with the retirement of Bill Baker, there was a competitive process to hire from within. Mm-hmm. And I was selected out of that process. And it's just been a wonderful and amazing opportunity to serve this town. And I really look forward to it.
Great to have you. Mike Kelleher, well, actually, Rob has the more years than any of you guys at this point, more months. So, but you're second in line. So, and both you guys had big shoes to fill. Obviously, you got longtime chiefs, guys that had longtime experiences being chief, and both you guys are learning the roles as you go along. But obviously, very highly credentialed guys, and we're very happy to have both of you. But Mike, tell us a little bit about your background.
Again, just like Mike, I was born and raised in Foxboro, graduate of Foxboro High, started the Foxboro Fire Department actually as a junior in high school. Mm-hmm. At the time it was called the Junior Firefighters Program. So I was very fortunate to get a jump in my career. Been on the fire department over 20 years. Paramedic, I was one of the first handful of paramedics in the department. So, now that program's blossomed. I think everybody in the department's a paramedic with the exception of of half a dozen guys. So over the years, that program's really taken off. But no, I live here in Foxborough with my family, right down the street from Mike. So,
You guys are practically neighbors,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So
Who would have thought,
so
right?
I think the neighborhood's pretty
It's the
pretty
safest
well
neighborhood in
covered.
the town. Right?
I'm going to say he was there first,
Yeah.
but he wasn't, and he came back.
So no, very very fortunate. The departments were doing great things in the Foxborough Fire Department. I'm also involved with the State Hazardous Materials team. I'm the team coordinator for the Southeastern Mass portion of the team. We cover about 103 cities and towns with 45 technicians. So it's a busy system, and that's something I really enjoy. It's given me a lot of experience outside the four walls of Foxborough, working with other communities and some large scale hazardous materials emergencies. So that's been a really good experience for me. Again, was a captain in 2014, I believe. Made deputy chief in 2016, and then subsequently promoted chief. Getting a master's degree from Norwich University in public administration. So.
Right. So you guys clearly great credentials, getting yourselves in, positioning yourselves to getting to the position that you are today. So congratulations to all of you collectively. You've all done a terrific job in your careers, and I'm really excited about working with you going forward over the next several years to try and continue to make this one of the best public safety operations in the country, I believe. So we do have a lot of exposure on a national level because of the venue that we have here in town, but clearly you do get a lot of attention because of the work that you do. And I hear nothing but positive remarks from anyone that I talk to speaking about your operations collectively. So thank you for the work that you do. So Rob, tell me a little bit about some of the things that you've done with SEMRC and what's on the horizon and how has it performed in the past 3 months or so of operation?
Absolutely. So SEMRC is recently operational in July, which I know most people are very excited about.
Right.
I certainly am. We've taken on Foxborough and Mansfield into the Regional 911 Center. So as part of that, we've hired new staff. We've done a tremendous amount of training with that staff. Most of that staff is comprised of former Foxborough and Mansfield telecommunications staff. And we have a few others just to kind of diversify.
Right.
So through that training, we've been able to enable the staff to be certified in taking wireless calls directly. So if you call 911 from your cell phone within our jurisdiction, it'll come directly into our center, including on the highways, which is a huge time saver. Before July, if you called 911 from your cell phone, which comprises almost 80% of our call volume at this point, it would go to a state wireless center, so Framingham or the state police. They'd spend some time with you, screen the call to figure out which town you're in, what your general emergency is, and then transfer it, and then you'd have to start that process over again. So most calls that we receive wirelessly, we're able to skip that part of the process, take them directly, and we're the first hands on the call, which saves about 2 to 3 minutes right off the top of the call. On top of that, we've deployed different programs to try and gather more information, to have more actual information to provide to the other public safety leaders to better advise their policy-making decisions and their operations. So we're able to gather a bunch of information, turn that into intelligence, and affect operational changes. We've performed exceptionally well. We've had a tremendous increase in call volume due to that wireless call volume. So recently, until recently, the state would play kind of goalkeeper for us. So if we had a ladder fall on the highway, every person that drives past that ladder calls 911. We'd get maybe one of those into the local centers. Now we're getting 30 calls. Even with that increase in call volume, which is about 300% increase over the town operations, we've reduced all of our call answer times, call processing times, and we've met national and state standards well within the margins. We've improved them over the local operations, which I'm extremely proud of, and that's definitely a credit to my staff and their passion for the job. So we're doing really well. We're looking forward to moving forward with the building project, which is out to bid now. Target completion date is July, August of this year. At that point, we'll take on Norfolk.
Next year, of 2020.
Correct.
2020, okay. Yeah.
Correct. So about 9 months out from today.
Okay.
And then we'll take on Norfolk County Control. I'm sorry, not Bristol County Control, which is the fire control for from here down to the coast of Bristol County. We'll take on the town of Norton and Easton. So we'll double our main PSAP operation, plus we'll have that added Homeland Security and fire mutual aid responsibilities, which is awesome.
I'll come back to the discussion about the building in a few minutes, but I think that's an exciting opportunity as well, particularly being located here in Foxborough, which is great, but because of the location of it, it's going to have tremendous access to all 4 communities in the region. In fact, a lot more for that matter.
Absolutely.
And we'll come back to that in just a minute. But
Okay.
I just want to say thanks to all 3 of you for the level of cooperation and interaction that you have on a regular basis. It's so important, and particularly in the area of communication, that the departments talk to each other and really keep each other informed about what's going on, what's working well, what's not working well, and if there's an issue, let's try and address it immediately, because obviously the safety of the personnel in each of these departments is at stake, as well as the public safety at whole. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important that that communication level is high, and it really is high, and thanks to all your collective cooperation, so I appreciate that. So Mike Grace, tell us a little bit about what's happening in the police department world these days. So.
Well, before I get to the police department, what's even more amazing is with SEMRC is that as it was being formulated and being built over 2 years ago,
right.
that everybody at this table was part of the building process.
That's right.
There's no strangers here.
That's right.
So we were part of the building process, and now we're actually implementing it, and it's the transition's been amazing.
Yeah, it's almost seamless, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. So.
Yeah. We've taken what normally takes communities about 10 years and reduced it down to about 2 years.
Right.
And that is absolutely a credit to the collaboration and the willingness between the public safety agencies to take public safety in general to the next level. So it really sets the stage nationally for how to do these kinds of things.
I absolutely couldn't agree more. In fact, I spoke about this at a regional meeting put on by the Lieutenant Governor this past week, and I had a number of people come over to me and said, geez, how did you guys do it? Because normally that process takes a lot longer, and we did it in just about 2 years. When you think about it, we implemented it right about 2 years. So it's pretty amazing. So tell me a little bit about what's going on in the police world. There's a lot going on. It's different.
There's a lot
going
on.
Different world than it was 10, 15 years ago, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. When we talk about policing now, we used to talk, oh, what did you do in the 80s? What did you do in the 90s? Right. Policing currently, it seems like it's year to year, the changes and the expectation among police officers and some of the changes that we have to go through, whether it be technology or manpower issues or just social issues that we see. But within the police department, we're currently in the process of hiring 3 more new officers. These are not new positions. We're just trying to keep up with retirements.
The vacancies filled,
we're challenged by the timelines. Unfortunately, we look at a year at a minimum to get a new police officer hired and on the streets.
Right, and that's the training and the process.
Acceptance into the state academies if we can find an opening.
Right.
So we're shooting for a January date for our 3 officers to start. That's if maybe it's 4th, if I don't know, in the next couple of weeks. You never know. We could have someone else, but
you've actually taken a lot of folks in transfers into the department.
We've balanced it to the best of our ability. I will say I want to thank you, Bill. I want to thank the selectmen, the residents of Foxboro, because when we started the process of transitioning from our older model of dispatch to our current model, we did a full assessment to find out what were the gaps, where were the shortcomings, because we wanted to make sure we provided the same service to the community at a minimum, if not better. And I think we've exceeded it at both ends, on the SEMRC side and the customer service within to the residents in the police station. Okay. So that was one of our challenges, is to have a station officer there, because the residents, they should have it. I know they expect it.
Yeah.
And we have that. So we man that police station 24/7 with a station officer who's always there to help anybody who comes in. And I think when we talk about other dispatch centers, is sometimes there's some shortcomings that they're challenged with, but we definitely assessed it fully. And we did our best, taking input from all of our staff, from our supervisors, from our partners, to see, okay, what was going to be like a gap. And I think, and the town helped fund that with some of the savings initially up front, and it's really been successful in helping us to evolve.
So I think we've actually managed to provide a better service. Not that it's not a slight against any of the previous operations, but just the fact that it was a different style of operation, and the focus was in a different direction. Now the focus is on providing better training, better equipment, better tools for the dispatchers to do their job than we were able to do before, because we can do it with the funding of 4 communities and the state. The state provides a huge support to us in doing that type of work, so, and we're really, really grateful for that as well. So, but I want to thank you guys for helping.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and the officers, probably both and fire,
Yeah.
who are the end users of this, and your staff, have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
They've been supportive. They
Right.
have questions. We ask. We deal with
Yeah.
it. Nothing
Yeah.
percolates as a problem.
Right.
And everybody's on board. It's been fantastic.
Great.
Within the department, obviously, Chief 7 days in, where it's a very exciting time because we have 2 openings for lieutenant positions.
Yeah.
They're on hold just because I don't have an active list to choose from.
We're in that process.
We're in that process. We had
which is
4
good.
candidates
Yeah.
take the
exam.
state test last month, so I'm hoping December, and maybe some appeals. I could be January, could be February, but we'll get there to start to round out the upper
staff.
management of the department. Obviously, we're hoping to move one of the lieutenants to a deputy chief position, so that way the structure of the department has a clear number 2, and it'll help delineate some of the responsibilities and roles. And
Exactly.
we'll see that at town meeting, and I asked the residents for their support on that. It is what occurs in other departments. It works.
It's a good structure. It is a good structure, and everybody here, myself, the Board of Selectmen, the advisory committee have all voted in support of that. So, and we hope that the community will do the same.
So we've also, as we move forward, we did have a recent town survey of what the police department, what the citizens have concerns, and obviously 3 of the big 3 were traffic, our schools, and
safety.
drugs,
Yeah.
and school safety.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate. We do have 2 full-time school resource officers for Foxboro, but that does include the charter schools. So we're running 2 high schools.
Right.
Almost 2 school systems.
Correct.
And that's Will and Frank. They are fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. They do a great
they
job.
make you smile. You just get near them, they just make
Yeah.
you smile. They're great
Which is
officers.
infectious to the kids as well. And
Oh,
that's really
absolutely.
important. Really important.
They
So,
implement High Five Friday. Every school
Yeah.
we're there, everybody comes down. It's great. The kids look forward to it. So we're moving right along in that program, and they have many new ones. They're working with Dr. Bertos to try to implement a couple new ideas for their involvement in some programs. And the school, and again, the school department's so receptive. They're fantastic.
So we'll come back to you a little bit more on community policing and how that's sort of taken a different tact recently, and how we're doing more to try and do to address that area. But I'll come back to that in just a minute. But Mike, tell us a little about what's going on in the fire department.
Pretty exciting time in the Foxboro Fire Department. We just had a couple of promotions due to some retirements also, so that's good. We get the lieutenant captain ranks filled. We recently took delivery of our new ladder truck about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Most of that was paid by a federal grant, so that was good. That takes probably the biggest capital expense that the town has, off the backs of the taxpayers. So that was really good. So life expectancy hopefully was about 20 years on that vehicle.
Great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It's great to be able to get that grant. That doesn't happen very often.
It does not. You don't get that was a lottery ticket.
It was. It certainly was.
But we were very fortunate. So the members put a lot of work into the specifications of the vehicle. Really wanted to make sure it was something that was specific for the town of Foxborough and our mission here. And I think they nailed it. It's very functional. It's very efficient. But it's a work of art, really.
It's not your traditional ladder truck, so to speak. It's a different kind of vehicle, other than say a platform truck. So talk a little bit about that, because it's an interesting vehicle. Sure.
So compared to the old the 1994 ladder truck that it replaced, this truck has a pump on it, carries water, which is a little unique for a ladder truck, especially up in the Northeast where it's more traditional. But that allows it to go to fires if by chance the truck happens to be on the road and a fire comes in, it can respond to that fire and extinguish it, which again gives it the versatility as opposed to just having a ladder truck that just has a ladder on it. And we've had situations in this community where the ladder truck has gone to calls, just by happenstance of the way the calls hit, they are available, they respond, but they don't have the ability to extinguish a fire or things like that. The other features, it has what's called a pre-piped waterway, which this traditionally we had to put a hose on the ladder to use an elevated master stream, it's called. So if we have a good site like the State Hospital fire back in '06,
Right.
we had to set that up, and it takes time. This is all pre-deployed. It's a pre-piped and all plumbed into the pump. So
you hook up the hose and it goes.
it goes. Yep, absolutely. We also think into the future and some of the different operations. We put a hose connection on the end of the ladder too, so we could use it as a portable standpipe. So if we have, if we encounter something in a parking garage or other things that are elevated, we can attach hose to it as opposed to
Connect the lines.
Yep,
so-
bringing
so-
hose up a stairwell or
extend
whatever.
it, yeah.
So it makes it
great.
again. It's just the efficiency and just kind of thinking ahead. So.
One of the things that so impressed me about the way you structure your operation is that every one of your vehicles is pretty much equipped with the equipment to handle any situation that it can encounter.
Yeah.
Whether it's a medical situation, or if it's a rescue type of situation, or if it's extraction or a major fire, it can handle any one of those situations.
Yeah, we try to be versatile and we try to be efficient. One of the challenges with the limited amount of manpower we have and trying to run 2 ambulances essentially full time, we want to make sure that we can bring the equipment necessary to kind of really tackle any type of incident that we have, be it a gas leak, carbon monoxide, again, like you mentioned, vehicle extrication. I think Foxboro, more than any surrounding community, we have 95 and 495 that intersect here. I don't know that the citizens realize how often. I think we're pretty much on the highways every day, multiple times a day, and that's a burden that we carry. Where the highway department, they have mass highway, so that
Yeah, exactly,
state police patrol the highways. So,
Yeah.
but we're responsible for that whole.
Yeah, we don't have that
whole-
secondary level, other than other towns that help us out.
Exactly,
We
yeah.
get
It's
that support, but
So it's limited access. It can be challenging to get to with traffic. I think obviously everybody understands the traffic situation around,
Right.
especially with the secondary roads as
Right.
the highways get busier. So yeah, we're certainly.
Another reason why we're looking at possible substation possibilities because of traffic and the response times. and things
Yeah,
of that nature.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, we had some pretty good growth in the kind of southeastern corner of town there. There's a couple more hotels. Mansfield has their new station. It's kind of relocated out of the geographic center of their community.
Correct.
They backed us up there quite a bit. Oftentimes they would beat us in a response to the highway. And I think the most challenging location is 495 northbound between 95 and Route 1. Where the casino is.
Yeah.
Most of that's Foxboro down. You get the Spruce Street underpass. So for us to get there from Chestnut Street, that's quite a ride.
That's quite a run.
Yeah, Mansfield was able to back us up, but now they're
in a different location.
Yeah, they're North Main Street
They got a
Fire
new
Station.
station. Yeah,
Yeah,
new
it's out on
station.
East Street. So
Okay, well, thank you. That's a great summary. We'll come back and talk to you just about the issue of community paramedicine.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a really great new program that's been started here in Foxboro, sort of leading the way in that one. So I'll be
Absolutely.
interested to hear about that. So Rob, tell us about the new building that you guys are working on right now. Tell us how that's going to work.
Absolutely. So we were lucky enough to find a property in Foxboro. It's up off Route 1, and it's a former DOD subsidized building that AT&T ran.
I think Mike actually found that, right?
Yeah.
Purely by accident?
Strictly by
I think so,
accident.
yeah. But it's,
So-
rather be lucky than good, right?
That's it, that's
yeah, okay.
So we were able to acquire that property for a small sum of $10, and the 6 acres that surround it. And what's unique about the building is it's built for critical public safety and actually Department of Defense communications. So the facility, its shell was built to survive a nuclear blast and keep operating. Hopefully we'll never experience something like that, but
It's the safest place in town, by the way.
I'd say so. But it's a tremendous opportunity for us. Obviously, 911 Center by itself is a critical piece of our infrastructure. Put 4 of them together, and it just becomes that more precious. So to place that critical operation into a reinforced building and still have the ability to have crew comforts and all the things that we need to support the staff there, it's unique. And I think we're going to be the only one probably in the Commonwealth that's built like that, and maybe even in this area. So really, if you look at all the specs for the best practices for setting up a public safety answering point at 911 Center, all these things are in there, and it's never really been achievable or attainable by communities because that building would cost almost $500 million to build just the shell now, and we got it for $10. So, so we're taking that building, we're renovating it to fit our needs and upfitting it over the next 8 to 9 months. Hopefully, like I said, that'll be done by July or August of 2020.
And the renovation's being paid for by the state.
Correct.
Which is great. So
Correct.
that's a big important point to residents to understand that the funding for SEMREC comes through a number of grants that we receive, but also particularly the funding for the new facility. It's going to come directly from the state.
Correct.
And,
The state has provided a tremendous amount of support and funding for this project. And that money comes directly from cell phone and landline surcharges. So it's not money that's coming out of the tax rolls. It doesn't go through the State House. It's money that's taken from your cell phone bill or your landline bill and reinvested back into 911 operation.
Public safety.
So that's the tune of, for this project, probably about $7 to $8 million savings to the local communities, plus over 10 years, another $7 million in operation expenses that's coming directly back into the communities.
That's great news. Thank you. Mike, tell me a little bit about community policing and how it's evolved.
Well, we've definitely it's been like Sir Robert Peel started community policing. It's not a new concept,
Right.
by any means. I think you've seen across the country some, and I think Ferguson was a perfect example where community policing was non-existent, and where the police department failed its residents. We're very fortunate in Foxboro, where we have an amazing group of officers. Many of them are Foxboro residents who have come from Foxboro, who are currently part of the community, and they care about the community. And it's not really work for us to be part of our community, of how we interact with our seniors, our housing authority, with our kids. It's really, for us, it's a way of life. It's part of the job. It's not something new to us, but we can always expand on it. We always say every call for service is an opportunity, and it really is an opportunity to have a positive interaction, to make an impact, because a lot of times there's many people in our town who never see the police or fire. They never call us. They never need us. But if we get the opportunity to see them, and maybe in a different situation, which it isn't an emergency situation, we like to reach out to them and support them. And as time goes on, as we try to open up more opportunities through social media and departments being more receptive to ideas and thoughts, we want to grow that, because that is a major tool. We're seeing it evolve on a daily basis, and we're part of that. It's you can't shy away from it, because we want to be part of it, because if we have an opportunity to get the pulse of the community on a regular basis, we want to know it, because we can do more, or we can change how we're doing things. So it's an opportunity for citizens' input. We're also seeing, as we evolve into this community policing, is how does this affect situations like, for example, like traffic concerns. So like analytics is the big push in law enforcement, is taking as much data as you can get and predicting problems and not just reacting to them. So that's going to be a big push in our department, is to have as much data as we can, so we can help our citizens on a regular basis, not having them come to us to say there's a problem, but us to start predicting and seeing the problems beforehand.
It's going to look out over the horizon. You'll see it. This could happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's take a look at this, because there's trend analysis that's going to show where it could happen next.
And I think with the department heads that we see through, on our weekly meetings, our monthly meetings with the different agencies, and bringing input to us and making sure that there's clear lines of communication, so people, department heads have, because people bring things about the police department, but they don't bring it to the police department. And just in the last couple weeks, everybody townwide, all the department heads, if they have an issue, they're immediately accessible, and they're getting it to us. And it's been great. We've had a couple situations that we're dealing with, and it was a quick phone call, and we got a face and a name to it, and we're implementing some problem-oriented police practices in some of the areas around town, and it's working really well.
Excellent. So let me just turn to Mike Kelleher for a minute and talk about the new community paramedicine program that you've introduced.
Absolutely. So we kind of took the foundation of fire prevention, and as we look at the community as a whole and how to reduce risk to the citizens, we look at the vulnerable populations, the elderly being one of them. We're really looking on how we can enhance our ability to take care of them. And there's several programs we're kicking off. We had a cookout at the senior center last month that was very successful. We brought the new ladder truck down, but Dave Larissy, Deputy Chief, who spearheads fire prevention, he's going to start offering free inspections to seniors. Again, as the baby boomer generation enters their golden years, there's a lot of dynamics involved that puts pressure on the healthcare system and puts pressure on public safety, different types of pressure, but we're looking at ways, innovative ways to deal with that and keep them safe. So expanding on kind of the foundation of fire prevention, looking at things like fall prevention programs and things like that. So one of the most exciting initiatives that we've done in the last 6 months to kind of complement some of the work that Deputy Chief Larissy is doing is we actually took on the role of the public health nurse. That was a contracted role through the public health department. So I approached the health agent and the Board of Health, and through a collaborative effort, we were able to get extra Medicaid funding because we run a public ambulance service. So at pretty much zero cost to the taxpayer, we were able to hire an additional FTE in the fire department who happens to be a nurse and a paramedic. So the person's in charge of our paramedic program, but also is responsible for the public health nursing function under the Board of Health and actually has some of the authority along with that position. So that's really a benefit to us, and it's a benefit to the health department because we kind of have a double agent.
And a benefit to the community because
absolutely.
now we have a full-time person that can provide that service now as opposed to a part-time service.
Yeah. So what happens, and we've collaborated with the veterans agent. We've been definitely collaborating with the Council on Aging and their social workers. We have these people that kind of they fall through the cracks and they don't have access to services, and there's a limited amount that the social workers can do. And Tom Kenvin's the gentleman that runs that program for me, and he fills a lot of those gaps, and we're able to access a lot of care. He goes down. Sometimes it's very simple stuff like filling someone's medication for the week, And now the fire department's involved in that because we all see these people in our own silos, and that's what was happening. 5 years ago was everybody would deal with the same individuals, just in different settings. Right. So now we've kind of broken those down and we're cross collaborating. So it's a lot better for the end user, the citizen. So it's exciting. We're also doing infectious disease surveillance, which is really interesting. That's part of the job of the public health nurse is to take all of the infectious disease reports from the state, any communicable disease, and do like a quick epidemiological screening. So if we have a tuberculosis, someone in the community that gets that, there's certain things by law we have to do to follow up with it. Salmonella, obviously the Triple E kept us very busy. So a lot of times, again, we'd be seeing these patients because we'd be transporting them by ambulance, and the public health nurse would be working with them, and we wouldn't really know that there was that.
There's a little bit of a gap there.
Yeah. So now
it's seamless.
we have all the databases, kind of compressed down into one really centralized place. One person's responsible for it. Now, immediately when we transport someone, we see them show up on the Department of Public Health's infectious disease database. We already have their information and their demographics. We're able to follow up immediately and start to do that investigation and make sure we contain any potential outbreak of health emergency. So it's really exciting. It's a unique role for the fire department.
It's a unique role for the fire department, one that is catching a lot of attention because it's clearly one that makes a lot of sense because it creates that congealed sort of effort that really needs to be done between the various departments. So I'm really grateful for the efforts that you've all done in trying to make that happen. You can see one thing, a really common theme with all three of you is the fact that you're willing to share information. I know that Rob's team now actually has the ability to do some analysis on the medical front, which information can be shared with the fire department.
Absolutely.
And then also, if in terms of on-scene type of analysis for the police department, they're able to bring information to the scene that they haven't been able to do before to help the police department do their job better. So it's the whole theme that we've sort of created here collectively is this sense of working together to try and make sure we can provide a better service.
Yeah, and it doesn't actually, it's a continuous process.
Right,
As a
exactly.
matter of fact, we're meeting this afternoon to discuss how officers in the field can relay some basic medical information to dispatch so we can better respond and appropriately respond. Because one of the biggest questions I get all the time is why does the fire engine chase the ambulance around town?
Yeah, that's right.
And sometimes it's necessary, and sometimes it's not. So I think what we're really doing, based on the information that we get from the field, we can dispatch the appropriate apparatus. 67% of the time that someone leaves the fire department, we have another call somewhere else.
I actually
So-
witnessed that a few weeks ago when you had something at the station. All of a sudden, next thing you know, there was a few trucks in the department. Next thing I turned around, they're all gone.
Everybody's gone, yeah.
And it was back-to-back calls, which happens a lot.
Yeah, so one of the challenges we have
Yeah.
is that the hospital is in Norwood, so it's quite
Yeah.
a distance away. So that kind of
Exactly.
takes the ambulances out of the catchment area. So
Right.
we have to work around that.
So I'm going to wrap this up because I know we've covered a lot of ground here this morning, but I'm grateful to all of you for the work that you're doing, and just want to say keep up the good work. It's great to see. I'm very proud of the work that you guys do. I'm able to brag to my other communities and my other town managers that we are probably one of the best teams around. So, and it's great to be able to be part of this and have you guys part of my team. So I appreciate that.
Great.
So I just want to say just a couple closing thoughts. We do have a town meeting coming up on November 4th. I'll be following up with another show in a couple weeks to talk about how some of the items that are going to be on that warrant. Is actually a 12 article warrant that's coming forward on the 4th of November at the high school. It'll be starting at 7:30. We're going to doing some analysis of that. Having an introduction to the new finance director here in Foxboro, George Samia, will be joining me that day. And I think I'm going to actually bring in Mark Craig, who is the director of the Council on Aging / Human Services Department, who is going to talk a little bit about one of the articles that's on there regarding the new, at least the study of a new senior center / community center type facility. So we're going to talk about that and just keep providing information to the public so you all have a good understanding of what's going to be forthcoming on the 4th at that time. So without further ado, I want to say thanks to my three guests, three all-star guests that I have here today. So, and the team. So I'm grateful for your time, and I'll see you all next time on the Ask Bill Keegan Show. Thank you.